In the second part, we are going to be looking at what values are, how we measure them at Cophi, and we're going to be looking at a number of measures to make them more understandable, more relatable. We'll look at how we present them at Cophi, and then we're going to go through some practical examples of how we might be able to use them in some of your team sessions. So what are values? At a top level, values are principles and beliefs that guide an individual's thoughts, actions, and behaviors. These are deeply ingrained and are made up of everything you've ever experienced in your life. So this could be cultural experience, it could be religious experience, it could be your general upbringing, it could be direct personal experience. And value systems change as we get older and as we develop as individuals. They serve as a moral compass for individuals. So this is one of the building blocks for how we make decisions and how we navigate difficult situations. How we measure them, we've got a series of fixed statements. We've got here to start off with, I believe I should obey rules even when no one is around, for example. And then we would rate that on a 6-point scale, ranging from not like me at all to very similar to me. We go through a series of those questions, and then the output of those questions we rate against a system that is based on decades of academic research, in particular the work of Shalom Schwartz. And these are some definitions around specific values that have been drawn out, which best cover off the spectrum that we're looking at. And we represent these values on a wheel. So you can see all of those values that we saw on the previous slide can be represented in a wheel, because every single one of those values has an adjacent value and it has an opposite value. And so just to give you a couple of examples here, self-direction, for instance, is at the opposite end of a spectrum to, say, security. And so you can see that there will be a specific way that you are skewed or pointed depending on your own value system. So we've got 4 quadrants. This one's focused on our well-being. That's the collective well-being. This one's focused on autonomy, so that's a personal focus and a strive towards autonomy. This one's more related to success and personal success. And then this one again is a collective point, but it's a collective stability skew. And you can see all of these angles. In this particular instance, this individual is skewed towards universalism, relationships, and order being some of the strongest values, and slightly lower on personal success, pleasure, and they're all related to this internal octagon, which I guess is probably a norm. So everybody's going to get one of these, and then you can start to compare and contrast what they look like. Here's another couple of examples where we've got 2 people with very opposing values. You've got on the left-hand side somebody who is interested in order, stability, security. And on the right-hand side, you've got somebody who's much more focused on their own autonomy, exploration, self-direction, and pleasure. And so these are 2 very different types of people, and very, very powerful together because it's a diverse range of opinions, but also high potential for misunderstanding, disagreements, and complexity. So we're going to look at some practical questions that we can explore. And this is by no means an exhaustive list, but we are going to use values to perhaps think about the way you approach problems, and you can have a broad discussion about how everybody approaches problems. People move through problems fast, some people move through problems slowly, some people look at problems by talking about the problem more, some people like to solve problems by going directly to the solution. We can talk about how we think about making decisions. We can talk about how we prioritize for outcomes, considering blind spots, what you might miss and somebody else might pick up. So, for example, we might tell each other some stories about how we experience things. So there's often some powerful background stories. For instance, an example here, constantly moving homes when I was younger maybe means that I have I value stability. So I might be less likely to want to always move desks in the office, for example. Or a boring job first made me realize I strongly valued stimulation and novelty. That is the end of the value system. There's a ton more questions, and it's important to read your report, immerse yourself in it, and then please do come back to me if you've got any other questions or want clarification. Thanks for listening.